King Tsang, welcome to the Marketing Study Lab podcast.
Hello, how are you?
Fantastic. I'm doing well. The sun's shining. I'm trapped indoors, but I'm talking to you, so it's sunshine indoors, basically.
Oh, flattery will get to most places.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So as I start all these episodes, random opener. Now, I went everywhere with this from why is your name like split in two? You know, usually you've got like Madonna, etc., etc. People go by one name. No, you go by two, which is love it, absolutely love it. And then I thought, should I do something with T? No, that's probably been done to death, but we'll probably come on to that later. So my random opener for you is, what gives you the fear of missing out?
Oh, that's a great opener. Wow, what gives me the fear of missing out? You know, when people are, just posting on social about, the great party they've been to or the great festival they've attended or a great business conference that they've been to, that's what gives me FOMO, definitely. And then I want to find out more and figure out when I can join the next one. So I don't get FOMO the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and we'll probably come into this a little bit later on, but your content definitely does that. The pre all this stuff that's going on in the world right now, but the content that you produce and you provide, it definitely provides me with a lot of FOMO when I'm looking at these conferences and thinking, yeah, I kind of wish I was there now.
And that's a whole point. That's why conferences hire me, so that people think, oh my God, I wish I was there. I'm going to have to book my next ticket for next year.
Absolutely, which is brilliant. Love it. Before we dive into that with some actionable tips about selling out events and making them memorable, what I want to start with is your story and what brings you to this point in your career. And can you explain briefly what you do now?
That's a great question too. So on a business front, I actually started in tea. So my first name is May King, and I am on all the social medias as Making Tea. Ta-da! You get it?
I love that. Why didn't I start with that? Oh, I'm a bit jealous of that now.
So I use social media to showcase about my business, educate people about tea. I'm one of the top 50 recommended speakers of tea. And with the events that I went to do with tea, good food, good wine, and so on, I'd tweet about it. And I would talk to people about it, so that my social media content was not about me, and hey, what do you think about me? But it was actually the people I was talking to. So, and it gave me some great opportunities to work and collaborate with other businesses as a result. So in my tea business, I worked with top chefs. I worked with the creative director for the Beijing Olympics.
Wow.
Now that's pretty awesome. And this all came through social media. But one of my tricks, well, no, not tricks, superpowers is live tweeting. So when I was live tweeting, I'd go to an event and I would tweet and I would listen to the speakers or chefs or, rock stars, whatever, and I'd talk about it. And other companies are saying, oh, hey, Making, can you do that for us too? And I said, sure, no problem. So then suddenly I went into live tweeting. And then last year, I actually pitched for the first time. So, in business, you have to go out and make phone calls and say, hey, and build relationships with people, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not very good at the sales thing, but I did jump out of my comfort zone and I pitched to my first event organizer. And I said, hey, Andrew and Pete, would you like a live tweeter? And they said, no. But very quickly, they said, however, can you also do Facebook and Facebook and Instagram at the same time? And as you know, in business, you kind of say, yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. And I'm thinking, Googling what's Instagram. No, I was only joking. No, so I did actually end up tweeting for them, tweeted 1,200 times on average. I also went on Facebook Live 5 times. I did lots of stories on their account. And as a result of the buzz and the FOMO that I generated by, listening to the speakers, interviewing attendees, writing about, the experience that people were having, we managed to create so much FOMO that within a week of the event closing, they sold 450 tickets for the conference for this year.
Wow.
And that's what FOMO is all about. So in creating live tweets, creating live Facebook Lives, creating live Instagram stories, interviews, posts, content, and just doing so much that people think, oh my gosh, what is this thing? This looks amazing. Giving an insight to the attendees, the speakers, the sponsors, then the result is getting FOMO, so that people will then be watching this on social media and think, I need to go on to that next event. And that's what's brought me here today. So I went from doing social media really well in tea, live tweeting, to FOMO creating.
I'm glad I'm sat down listening to that. I just feel I need a bit of a rest right now.
A cup of tea.
Yeah, well, that kind of leads me nicely onto a bit of a confession, really. And I don't drink tea.
What? And you're a northerner?
Yeah.
Get out! I'm only joking.
I know. I've tried. To be fair, I've tried it once. And I know exactly. Yeah. Tried it once, didn't like it. But I was a lot young. Sounds like a confession. I was a lot younger then, and I think I need to revisit it because all I hear is great things about it. I'm a coffee drinker, and I kind of don't want to cheat on coffee.
Well, given that we're sharing, Peter, I've got a confession to make too.
Go on.
I drink coffee.
Oh, you've just broken the internet there.
I can see the headlines now. Stop the press.
Absolutely. I love it. Absolutely love it. Great. I think I'm going to introduce a confession section to this show. I think that would be quite cool. I think that would really work. Okay. So unfortunately, let's get serious for at least 5 or 10 minutes, just to help people. I know, just to help people out on this. And you've covered a few elements there on selling out live events, like immediately after, or at least increasing sales in tickets immediately after the event. But
yes.
leading up to events, or even if I came to you and said, I have got an event, how would you help me create the fear of missing out? What are we looking at there?
So this is what I call pre-FOMO.
Okay.
And a lot of people are doing marketing in the lead up to an event. Okay, so there's lots of things out there that you can do. Getting people to subscribe to your email list, telling people in your emails what you're doing, putting out onto social media. This is where you can buy tickets. But the thing is, before you get to that point of this is where you can buy tickets, what about the bit before that? Why am I going to buy a ticket to an event? Do I know you? And that's the thing that people are forget, because they want to, they want to go for the sale immediately. And you and I know, Peter, that when you're building a business, you have to build your brand, don't you? Absolutely. Branding is so important. I mean, we talked offline before now. We talked about the wonderful Nicole Osborne, who helps business people with their branding. We love Nicole. She's amazing. And so with events, we need to do the same. With events, we need to do the same. We need to give a convincing scenario where people want to buy the tickets. You can't just say, hey, here are the tickets now, here are the discounts. You need to provide value and help people to understand that. So the pre-FOMO is a marketing strategy to help people to understand why you need to come to this event. And if you've got a good community base already, if you've built your business already and you've got a strong brand already, then you've already done half your job, which is great. So the other half will be to maybe do interviews with the speakers to give an insight into what they are going to be talking about on the big day. Maybe giving a bit of exposure to some of the sponsors and helping them to give more of a voice to them, so that they are getting value for their money for sponsoring the event. So these are the kind of things that can be done. But also the thing that I want to try and encourage conferences to think about is that the conference is all about the attendees. It's about them. And that's why with some of the conferences that I've created FOMO with, live on the day and in the lead up, I did a conference in Manchester, actually. So it was called Pods Up North. It's about podcasts.
Oh, cool.
And and last year was their first event. So in the lead up to it, it was a 3-month campaign that I did with them, with pre-FOMO, where I made it not about the speakers, but about the attendees. So, give them publicity, because they're all podcasters and they want, perhaps more people to listen to the podcast, right? So what I did was I did some interviews with them and asked them, why are they coming to the event? So that other podcasters, or, to use this example, can see, oh, okay, well, this podcast is going, maybe I should be interested in that event as well. So it then becomes selling without selling. With a lot of conferences at the moment and events and mass classes and workshops, they think about, what can I do to get tickets? Well, I think I'm providing value because we're going to have these speakers, this, that, and the other. But what about the attendees? That's what I want. So this is where the FOMO creating is slightly different to, the pre-FOMO is different to traditional marketing strategies that people have used before now. As I say, that I've done this for some events. They've loved it, and it's worked, and it's helped them to actually sell tickets for the big day as a result.
That's really cool. One thing you mentioned there, and it's almost blatantly obvious when you think about it, and it comes back to that heart of marketing. Always think about the customer, and it's a case of, why wouldn't you make it all about the attendee? You always see these photos of the speakers backstage photo, and it's like an empty room, and there's this food laid out, and then you go to the conference and you're like in a sardine tin, and there's no food, and there's cold tea and coffee, and you're like, I'd rather be a speaker than I would an attendee right now. Like, look at it from the other point of view. I love that.
That's exactly right. And so I'm inviting conferences to look at your marketing differently. First of all, if you want your conference to sell out, first of all, you need to hire me as your pre-FOMO strategist.
Absolutely.
But if you can't afford me, that's okay. Just hire me to talk to your social media marketing team to see how we can do things differently. Because FOMO creating is completely different to social media. Social media marketing is, and having a social media manager is, about creating posts which are important, to talk about the event, but it's more than that. It's about trying to sell without selling, in providing value. Why should an attendee spend, 50, 200, 500, however much it is to go to an event? And why has this person bought a ticket? We need to champion those attendees just as much as the sponsors and the conference organisers, because without attendees, your conference is nothing. So show them love, show them, give them free publicity. It's not about, for trying to encourage conference organisers to understand that it's not about you. It's about your attendees. Has been one of my biggest challenges. But, once they get it, they get it.
Yeah. So I think a quote Seth Godin always says, and that's, people like us do things like this. And that's pretty much bang on what you're saying there. You're showing the attendees. And if that is your target market, which it will be, because that's an attendee, then other people that relate to that attendee will want to come.
Absolutely. And the conferences that I've worked with so far, get it. They completely get it. So, you know, another conference that I did with actually one of Andrew and Pete's friends, Janet Murray, based in London, and she is also a massive champion of her attendees. And when I actually attended one of her events before I pitched her as a FOMO creator, I absolutely loved what she did. She championed every attendee by putting them in the workbook, every single attendee. I mean, that is wonderful. That means that you are treating the people who've attended your event as a person, not as dollar signs. And I absolutely love it. You know, so it's really based on the community. You know, we are a community. We are all going to an event together. We shouldn't be seen as individual people or seen as dollar signs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. I can't remember what the website is, but there's an actual website where you can create individual videos for your attendees. And I can't remember the name of it, but it's so powerful, things like that. Just that one-to-one comms.
Absolutely. I'm actually working with a startup at the moment to provide that service, to do you know, little interviews, and so I want to roll it out to future events, because I think it's amazing. Yeah, it's just a wonderful concept. It's so easy, and yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't been I was going to say I'm surprised it hasn't been embraced before, but actually, you know, video is still something that people in the marketing industry knows it's something, you know, video should be done. But we're still, you know, there's still a lot of fear and anxiety about videos yet. So I'm sure that, you know, in the future, then this, you know, the startup that I'm working with and the videos that they're doing for the attendees will become mainstream in, you know, in a few months, years, hopefully.
Yeah. Little tip that I've found worked for me especially is if you're not that comfortable on camera, just take your phone, don't record, put it on video, and just follow yourself around and keep it on video. And you just get used to yourself, seeing yourself and the way you talk. And being a podcast host, like, everyone hates their own voice, but you just get used to it. It's just a sound. You know, it just is.
That's a great tip, actually. What I encourage people to do is to actually record a minute for 5 days, about, you know, talking about the business, and then don't watch them on the 5th day to watch it. And you're going to hate it. You're going to think, oh my God, I've got a double chin. Oh my God, I've got lipstick on my teeth. You know, I've got white hair. You know, oh, I'm erring and ahhing. I hate my accent and all this kind of stuff. But if you look at it technically, the content, you'll know that you've grown in confidence within those 5 days. Can you imagine if you've got practice? And one of my dear friends, I'm going to name drop, Ian Anderson Gray, incredible guy. You need to get him on your podcast.
Okay.
Ian Anderson Gray, he actually has a podcast that is dedicated to giving people more confidence on video and live video, which I think is incredible. But as business owners, if we are too shy to go on video to showcase our business, then you're missing a trick. You're missing an absolute trick, basically.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just want to get into a little bit of detail here,
Sure.
with in terms of comms channels and things like that. So I think I already know the answer, and it depends on your customer, but what types of channels are we using, and what type of channels should we be looking to use when creating content? The reason I mentioned that is because I know you use Twitter and other social channels, and there was one stat that I found, and you mentioned it in the intro there, and that you tweeted something like 1,200 times a day, which I worked out to be 71 every 72 seconds. That is immense.
Well, I was a bit confused when you said that, 1,200 tweets, 72 seconds, because I wondered, well, what did you class as a day? And so I actually did, I'm not very good at maths, so I actually needed my partner's friend, so my partner's help on it. He said he did it in 24 hours baking.
Yes.
And I went, oh, okay, well, okay. So I'm going to change that stat and make it even more impressive. Muhammad Ali once said, it ain't bragging if you can back it up. those 1,200 tweets that I did, or in fact, I did 1,349 tweets for the conference that I did in London. I did it from 8:30 to 5:30. So we worked it out that there was probably a tweet every 27 seconds, something like that.
Unreal. Like I knew when I worked that out, it wasn't going to be obviously 24 hours, midnight to midnight.
Yeah.
But then I thought, there's no way I can ask you how you tweet 1,200 times a day in a standard 9 to 5 day, and you have done that. So yeah. Before we go on to the comms channels, how did you do that?
Because I'm superhuman. That's my superpower.
That's fine. I get that. Magic. Yeah, of course.
You're the Lego master. I'm the Twitter master.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we should fight crime, basically, shouldn't we?
Well, basically. So actually, on a serious note, what I do is, it is almost like, and someone suggested to me, it's possibly because I can speak 2 languages, like Cantonese, very badly. I speak Cantonese and English. So it's almost like I can split my brain into 3. The first part of the brain is I'm listening to the speaker. The second part of the brain is actually tweeting or other social media channels. So I will go on to that in a moment. So tweeting what the speaker has said. And then the third bit of the brain is actually carrying on listening to find out what the next golden nugget is. And I can just do that constantly for, 9 to 5. But also in addition to that, with the first conference that I talked about, Andrew and Pete, I not only tweeted all day, but I also went on Facebook to go live and interview the attendees, some of the sponsors. I also went on Instagram stories, captured, key moments, clips of video, photographs, and I posted that online as well. So to go back to your question of which channels I use, it actually depends on my client. So Twitter is traditionally renowned for the place to be to for conferences and events, and I do recommend that if you do have an event coming up, Twitter should be incorporated into that, because you get basically free publicity for your event, and the publicity can go on for days, and then you can, and then people start following you, and then you can actually, start a conversation with people that follow you. But in addition to that, I've basically gone where my clients have wanted me to go. So one particular conference that I did in Staffordshire, their main channel is Facebook and LinkedIn. So what I did was, and it was a networking event, so this is like pre-FOMO, in the lead up to the actual event, which was an award ceremony. So the networking event, and we've all been to networking events, right? But what I did differently is, rather than take selfies and then, put up a picture on LinkedIn and say, hey, it was, this networking event was great. That's a great social media post. But what I did was did the pre-FOMO, and I interviewed all the nominees for the award ceremony. So there were 21 interviews. Some of the business owners had never been on video before. They were very afraid, and I managed to talk to them and calm their fears, and then they realised the importance of it, because it's basically giving them publicity for their own business without selling, actually celebrating the fact that they've been nominated for an award, right? So I did the 21 interviews. We put them on LinkedIn. I actually added a post to give a bit of background to the award. I then repurposed, is a phrase that is used in marketing. Basically, that means copy and paste. Not to do repurposing companies a disservice. I don't mean it like that, but it to make it jargon free, it's copy and paste with a bit of edit. So the 21 videos I uploaded onto LinkedIn, then I copied and pasted them into Facebook. And then I also, with all the 21 interviews, I also generated tweets for them as well. So from the 21 videos, I effectively created 63 pieces of content. And that was pre-FOMO, and it's all selling without selling, making people aware of the award ceremony with the hope that more people will buy tickets. And they actually did sell out in the end. Partly, it wasn't entirely to do with all of my interviews, but it definitely helped.
So moving on to like the planning, not an event, but like for an event. What equipment, software, hardware, timings, that kind of stuff, how do you gear yourself up to do that? Or is it just, I'm in the moment, use what I can?
So, you know how, I don't know if you do know how, but Beyonce she used to throw up in the lead up to a concert.
Me and Beyonce were like that, so of course I know.
And Tony Robbins, before his controversial moment, what he used to do quite widely was jump up and down on a trampoline. Okay, so people have their different foibles in order to get into the moment. I don't have a set process. Bono, he sort of does a lot of octaves, to exercise his vocals. When I go into a conference, when I start getting my microphone out of my bag, I'm connecting it to my phone, I'm pretty much there. I think that's pretty much it, to be honest. Yeah, pretty much it. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll do an Instagram story before going into the conference. And even at virtual conferences as well. So I've been doing a few FOMO creating for virtual events since lockdown. So sometimes I'll do a story or a tweet or a LinkedIn post or a Facebook post, and that will also get me into the zone as well.
That's really cool. So anybody that's listening, it's not, you don't need this tripod, you don't need this app, you don't need this whole setup that you think you do. I mean, I am a glutton for buying stuff that I think will make me better on video or audio or whatever, where it's a case of literally I'm surrounded by all these tripods and stands and things, that lights and stuff, and I'm just like, I probably use them once a month max. And to get started, literally, you don't need any of that. You really don't.
And I think that this is it. The trap that people fall into is to think that they need all this equipment, and then it actually leads them to procrastination, and then they never get anything done. So, last year, with live tweeting, it's literally my phone. That's it.
Right.
And last year, I did start doing interviews with a lapel mic before I did my first FOMO creating gig. But even before a lapel mic, I just use my phone's mic. You don't need lots of equipment. I have a tripod now, but last year when I first started, I didn't. So you definitely, because I think it's actually a part of procrastination, and it's kind of an excuse that if I don't have all this equipment, then I won't get started.
Yeah.
And I don't have the latest. I mean, even last year, even though I was doing FOMO creating, I didn't have the latest and greatest phone. I mean, I think my smartphone was 6 years old. I've upgraded it now, folks. Though.
Yeah. And I suppose that's the thing. It's all the gear and no ideas, so to speak. I like trying things and testing things. So that's why I'm surrounded by all this kind of stuff that I hardly ever use. But in the same respect, it's that next level, or it can be that next step up and all that kind of stuff. But literally, to get started, or it's all about the content at the end of the day that you produce, and you're excellent at that. And 1,200 times in less than 24 hours is just absolutely immense.
But yeah, as I say, it really depends on the exhibition. There was one conference that I did in Newcastle, and their main focus is LinkedIn. So after listening to the conference, I think they had 22 speakers, and I was able to create 22 LinkedIn articles based on what I'd heard from the speakers about the maritime industry. I have no idea about the maritime industry, but because listening is another one of my superpowers, I was able to create these 21 different articles live there and then for the maritime industry. So it really, although traditionally I do Twitter, I go wherever my client wants me, and I can do more than one platform at the same time as well, which is, most of us, hopefully, as business owners, we will have one main platform that we concentrate our marketing on, and then maybe add a couple on top of that, be it Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter.
Yeah, really good tip there as well. Just focus on the one, and it's okay to have multiple, but don't feel you have to be on every single platform all the time, everywhere. Like,
don't
really focus. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's absolutely bang on. Get FOMO, but don't get FOMO.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
There's definitely a hashtag that goes on a lot longer than that, isn't there? Something's brewing. So we've led up to the conference. We've been at the conference. We've done all the craziness. We've sat down and had a cup of tea to calm down, and then we've had a coffee to gear ourselves up for post-event. So post-event, how do we capitalize on this? What are we doing? What are we looking to do?
So post-event is actually done at the event itself. Okay, so again, traditionally with a lot of conferences, networking events, and so on, you will get, the conference organizer or event organizer who will say to their videographer, can you just go around the room and get a testimonial? And this is the point where people look funny in headlights and make excuses. Oh, is that the time, right? And, and there's various reasons for that. It could be that they're genuinely scared of going on video. And that's why they need to make their excuses. They have a train to catch. They didn't have a great experience at the conference and don't want to be, associated with that brand. So what we need to do is do things a little bit differently. And so, live FOMO, which is on the day of the event, we find those little snippets that showcase that people were having a great time, that people learned a lot, that there were connections made, there was business actually made at the event. Those are the things that you should be collecting in order to put post the event. Now, traditionally, again, with a lot of conference organizers, they may get selfies, they may get that big photo with every attendee and say, hey, look at us, aren't we amazing? Nothing wrong with that as a social media post, but post FOMO, we're thinking about how to generate that excitement in return for next year. So it's about collecting snippets of video, collecting testimonials, whether it's written form or video and so on, and drip feeding that throughout the year. But also, again, going back to the attendees, what did they learn? What was their biggest takeaway? Can you find out what people learned? Again, traditionally, you may get a feedback form, a questionnaire that people fill in, they may not fill in. Pick up the phone and ask them. Don't put in a questionnaire, what can we do to improve? It's, get on the phone, talk to them, engage with them, maybe do an interview with them. It's all about the attendees, and the sponsors as well, because, the sponsors you need some love as well. So post FOMO, that's the kind of stuff that you can do. Talk about what's happening, what people learned. Would they go again? Do interviews, this, that, and the other, as well as the traditional, marketing about the emails and podcasts and and that kind of stuff as well.
That's really cool. So now moving on to the quick fire questions, if you don't mind. Are you ready for this?
Right. Okay.
You'll be answering these before I've even finished asking them, to be fair, from what you just said. So. Okay. What's that source of information you can't live without?
Source of information I can't live without. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Where are you going for that info?
Where am I going for that info? Actually, the trending news, Twitter. Because it gives me recommendations on what I ought to be looking at, what I'm interested in, as well as the news as well.
It's strange how Twitter's kind of transformed it since the early days to what it is now, and it's
Yeah.
very much the newsbreaker of the time at the moment.
Yeah, well, it always has been, but it's definitely had a resurgence. But just like the other platforms that show you, based on the algorithm, they show you what they think you want to see. So basically, because I've read a lot of social media rock stars on Twitter and learned from their stuff, they're showing me that stuff as well as the general news as well.
Cool. What's the last thing you remember Googling?
I remember Googling. This is going to sound, oh my gosh, I actually Googled myself. That's really sad, isn't it? But
no, it's all good.
We should be doing that as marketers. Go incognito and check to see if your marketing is working. Because I've switched my business. I will go back into the tea. I love the tea business. But now that I've gone from making tea to FOMO creator, I was just curious to see what happens when I type in FOMO, what happens when I type in FOMO creator.
Cool. I like that answer. If you could tell your 10-year-old self one thing, what would that be?
That when the dinner lady came in one day with a massive bag of clothes that she gave, to me, my brother and my sister, because my parents didn't have 2 pennies to rub together, that's okay. Being an individual is okay. Because when I was 10, I really wanted those jelly bean shoes and I really wanted the jelly bean handbag, and my parents couldn't afford it. Of course they couldn't. We went to Primark when it wasn't a thing. It was considered to be a terrible place if you went shopping in Primark. And I just remember being so grateful to the dinner lady, and I thanked her. I thought she was amazing by giving me, my brother and sister all these clothes. But at the same time, a bit embarrassed because they were effectively hand-me-downs, right? But actually, it defined me, and now I've never been a follower of fashion because of that. So, to my 10-year-old self, I would have said, "It's okay. You're going to be making Tsang, and you're going to be an individual, and you're going to be all right. It's okay. Hand-me-downs are cool."
I wish every 10-year-old could think and feel like that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be you. You do not have to follow a crowd. I just wish that was like almost a pill you could give a 10-year-old, and it's like, oh, okay, I get that now.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I love that question. That's amazing.
Final 2 questions. What's the most important thing to know about marketing right now?
What's the most important thing to know about marketing right now? It's still possible to market your business despite the lockdown. Don't be fearful of continuing to build relationships and talk business. I know a lot of business owners feel that, and I've been judged because I'm continuing on my business. How can you ask businesses for money in this time of it's okay. We're in business not to make money. We're in business to make an impact. And I can still make an impact to make a difference with FOMO creating. So, yeah.
Love that.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely love that. I think that is going to be the snippet that starts the show as well, because I think that's amazing. Final question, and most important question of all. If people want to find out more about FOMO creation or find out more about you, where should they go?
On Twitter! No.
Tweet me.
So actually, I have just rebranded and relaunched my YouTube channel. So if you search for FOMO Creator on YouTube, you'll see a video there that I did a month ago to give people ideas on how to create FOMO for their own business right now. Whether you're a conference organizer, an attendee, a sponsor, that video will be really useful. So I recommend that. And if you like that, then on all the socials, I'm on as Making Tea, MAYKINGTEA. Send me an Instagram DM, Twitter DM, LinkedIn connection. Yeah, that's how you can connect with me.
Fantastic. Mei King, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Loved it.
You are very welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yay!
Yay!